Well, I just watched episode 7.
That calls for a drink.
Welcome everyone to Was It Good? My name is Bob, and tonight I got to watch episode 7 of The Acolyte. We are down to the final 2 episodes.
Thanks for the good news.
Now, before I get into the review, I just want to let you know there are going to be some spoilers, so if you haven't seen the episode and you don't want to know anything about it, this is your warning, but if you don't care, just go ahead and keep watching. Now, if you have watched it, I'd like to know what you thought. Go ahead and share your comments in the comment section below. Let me know what you thought about the episode as a whole, what you thought about the season so far. I'd really like to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to hit that like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel, and let's get to it. After last week's amazing episode of 50 Shades of Star Wars, we're forced to relive episode 3 from a different perspective as we find out what really happened between the space witches and the Jedi. Now, if you saw my review of episode 3, you know I thought it was pretty bad, and now we're forced to relive it through another perspective.
Oh, come on!
As always, I'd like to start off with the things that I enjoyed, and this should be pretty quick because the only thing I liked was seeing Master Kelnaka throw down.
Let the Wookiee win.
I thought the fight between Kelnaka, Sol, and Torben actually looked kind of cool. It was cool seeing them throw each other around and using their sabers, so that was actually kind of fun. But other than that, there was nothing else redeeming about this. The rest of the episode is a different story, as it's riddled with all of the same problems that have made this show so objectively bad.
I've burped up stuff better than this.
The first real problem is that we're wasting a bunch of time. We only have 8 30 to 40 minute episodes, and instead of fleshing out the current storyline and characters, they decide to tell the same story from the past from 2 different perspectives in 2 different episodes. What they should have done is combined those into one, told the entire story, just made it a little bit longer, and given us all of the information. Now, I understand what they were trying to do, but when you only have 8 episodes, you don't really have the time to waste one of them just retelling the same story. It would have been better if you had put it all into one. You could have put it later in the season, would have been fine, but put them all into one and give us all the information there so we could use later episodes to flesh out the current story and characters. The next problem has to do with the writing for both the characters and the events. Let's look at the characters. They write Master Sol and Torben as if they're complete babies.
I want a potty. I want a cookie. I want to stay up.
So you got Torben whining that he wants to go home, and you got Sol whining that he wants a Padawan, and you got Master Indara turning around slapping Sol down like she's the mother of the two, and it's just embarrassing that the way they wrote the Jedi in this. And then the way events and ideas play out are just plain stupid. So you find out that the Jedi are in fact responsible for the death of the witches. So you've got Sol and Torben, they decide they're going to go and try to free Osha because they find out that there's a vergence in the Force.
A vergence, you say?
So with this idea of the vergence, they basically confirm that Osha and May have been conceived through the Force, so Anakin is no longer special, but we've already talked about that in a past review. But anyway, so Sol and Torben, they go to face the witches and try to free Osha, and what ends up happening is the witches have barricaded themselves into this fortress. They're not going to let their daughters go, but Mother Anastasia decides she's going to allow it, and she turns into a puff of smoke, and when she does, Sol ignites his lightsaber, and he turns around and stabs her and kills her. Now, I don't understand how her, as a puff of smoke, he's able to turn around and stab her, but in other shows, people get stabbed and nothing happens to them. They don't die or anything, but here she gets killed as a puff of smoke with the lightsaber going through her. It makes no sense with how it looks and with what happens. Now, the witches themselves then decide they're going to possess Kelnaka, and that's what leads to the Wookiee fight. Now, again, that actually looked kind of cool, but they're chanting along and they've basically possessed Kelnaka, and Master Indara shows up and she decides to perform an exorcism, which ends up killing all of the witches.
Let us pray.
And it just looked really stupid. There's no reason that should have killed all of the witches, but it does. And it just made no sense. Then you've got Sol as they replay the scene where May and Osha are on opposing platforms, and you see that Sol's holding both of the platforms, and he's not able to hold them, and so he turns around and lets go of May and holds on to Osha and then runs over to save her, and of course May falls to her death, or supposedly to her death, but it makes no sense because instead of holding the platforms, if he couldn't do it, why didn't he just hold both of the girls through the Force? That just makes no sense. So again, it's another idea that was just written very poorly. And then finally, we find out that the Jedi do cover everything up. And it's not because they're trying to protect themselves. Supposedly, it's because they're trying to protect Osha from the truth. And so it just, again, makes no sense. If they don't want to tell Osha what really happened, that's fine, but they still should have told the council. It makes no sense that they would hide that from the council. Just overall, the writing in this thing is absolutely terrible. And then you add in the bad acting, which there's been throughout the whole show. This is just, again, extremely bad. I'll make this quick. Was it good? This was absolute trash. It's hard to believe that there's actually an episode that could be worse than the third one, but this is right up there with it. It's badly acted, badly directed, poorly thought out. It's an absolute embarrassment to Star Wars. I'm glad that this show's finally going to be over next week. Now, if you're still watching this long, I'd like to thank you for joining me. Don't forget to hit that like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time.